What's up everybody and welcome back to my channel. I was just watching Farrah Abraham's latest YouTube video entitled Abortion and Women's Rights, and I've got to say that at first I didn't understand what she was trying to tell us. It was all over the place in true Farrah fashion, but then by the end I was like, oh my god, is this girl really campaigning for what I think she's campaigning for? I think she's campaigning for the women, sorry, not even women, teenage girls to get their tubes tied and teenage boys to get vasectomies instead of birth control for teenage girls. And I'm gonna explain it to you as we go through the rabbit hole, because you know, it starts off all over the place before she finally gets to her point. And then you gotta go back to everything she said earlier and stitch it all together and realize and understand what it is that she seems to be campaigning for. I say seems to because she doesn't really say one way or the other. It's just a lot of just, you know, thoughts being thrown out there. Before we get into all of that, let me just say Farrah looked so beautiful in this video. I love the ashy blonde hair. I don't know why more people don't go for this tone. It goes for a lot better for like olive to darker skin tones when it comes to blonde. I love it on her and I loved her outfit and everything like that. But jumping into the video, according to Farrah, abortion caused women to get free babies and fight with their moms. She also called Supreme Court Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who had just recently passed away, a congresswoman rather than the Supreme Court judge that she was. Then she claims that she decreased teen pregnancy and is known for it. She claims that you can prevent sex, abortion, and pregnancy like you can cystic acne, and that women are not just something that you cum in. I gasped a little bit when she said that because it came out of like left field. We were just having a nice conversation about cystic acne, and then she goes, you know, women are not just like something you, and I was like, okay, where did that come from? And then she goes on to talk about how people in her family have been getting their tubes tied and vasectomies for years, which is when I kind of start thinking like, why is she talking about this? I thought this was about abortion. I thought this was about teen pregnancy. So, you know, the gears start kind of turning. And then she says, listen, she tried to get her tubes tied, but doctors have been denying it to her, telling her that she's too young and that she's eventually going to want to expand her family. Personally, I have heard that story a lot from many different women, and it makes me quite sad, you know, especially in the case of Farrah. I think that it's very responsible of her to try to get her tubes tied, and I feel bad for her that doctors won't allow her to do it. I think that Farrah truly does understand that she's got a lot of issues, you know, she's dealing with a lot of trauma and stuff, and she doesn't want to keep having babies. Maybe she associates pregnancies and babies with that trauma because, you know, having her daughter alone while her baby daddy passed away while she was pregnant and all of that probably still haunts her, like never telling him that she was actually pregnant, and then everything that went down with her family, you know, like being shamed, you know, being kicked out of school, etc., etc. So I don't blame her, and I wish that doctors would allow her to do what she wants to do with her own body, because in my opinion it is the right decision for Farrah. Not that my opinion on something like that even matters anyway. Then she switches gears to talk about how the doctor who delivered her daughter Sophia allegedly had to shut down his clinic, allegedly for misconduct, but she never really gets into what that was. I really wish I could know more information about it. So like at this point it's very hard to tell whether she's pro or anti-abortion because she's literally kind of just talking, you know, around in circles on both sides of the field about it. And then, you know, actually I started realizing maybe she is anti-abortion because she says that one of her cousins is the product of like an assault that took place, and she champions the child's mother for going forward and having the child. So I'm like, okay, well, like I think people who are anti-abortion extremists would champion something like this, so maybe she is anti-abortion, I guess. But then she goes on to talk about how that child and that child's mother, or one of them, or I don't know if it's both or one, suffers from mental illness as a result of that traumatic event. So I'm like, okay, well then maybe you are pro-abortion because then they wouldn't be suffering. I really could not wrap my head around it, but you know, the situation was incredibly sad all the way around anyway. Then the conversation moves over to birth control, and Farrah seems to be anti-birth control because it didn't prevent her from getting pregnant, you know, while she was on it. She also says that it lowers your libido and it makes it hard for you to have intercourse. So remember, earlier she's talking about how people should be able to have their tubes tied young. She keeps getting denied it because doctors keep telling her that she's too young, she's gonna want to have a family. She talked about how some people in her family do get their tubes tied, they're older, but they do get it, and then the men get vasectomies and stuff like that. And now here she is campaigning against birth control, you know, and then she's also heralding herself up as someone who helped stop teen pregnancy. So if teens don't have access to birth control, won't they have more teen pregnancies, Farrah? Right? That's where things continue to get a little bit weird. But before we get into Farrah clarifying her stance there, she takes a little bit of a moment to drag Dr. Phil for owning her when she was on his show that one time. And then, you know, she goes into talking about how teens should be able to like tie their tubes instead of birth control because birth control doesn't work. And I was like, imagine a nation where teenagers are using tubal litigation as birth control. You know, like, what? Like, that is just such an extreme step. It truly is. And then she seems to also campaign for teen boys to get snipped because it's so easily reversible. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to say. I've never heard of this even being a thought when it comes to children, but like, wow. You know, it actually makes me nervous that she's the type of mom that is going to try to do this to her own daughter. You know what I mean? Like, she literally thinks that teenagers should be able to get their tubes tied. So is that something she's going to like sign off on for her own child before her child could even like, you know, say otherwise or do otherwise? I don't think it's possible, thank God, but like, it did make me think about it for a minute, and I'm still kind of like, I feel like she would be trying to push for that because remember, she has been doing a lot of really weird things with her daughter. I've got a video about her talking to her daughter about how like grown people are wondering, you know, if she's got like, you know, sprouting hair and stuff. The daughter's begging for privacy. She says she doesn't want to give it to her because she's a public figure, blah, 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 stuff like that. You know, she does like her yachting. She brings the child along with her. She comes here to Paris wearing a bikini in front of the Eiffel Tower, which has no water anywhere near it. And she has the daughter wearing one too, you know, so I find her very strange in terms of her relationship with her child. So it does make me wonder whether or not she thinks it is appropriate to have something like this for her own child, because it seems to be something that she's campaigning for the children of America. She also claims that she's not having any intercourse this year, but I don't know if I believe her. She had a quarantine for quite a couple of months, and I have a hard time believing that Farrah was not sleeping with him. She also claims that she was kicked out of her Catholic high school because she refused to abort her child, which was quite odd to me because the Catholic Church is heavily against abortion. We did have teenagers, very rarely, but we did have some who would fall pregnant while they were students, and they were allowed to just continue and move about with their days. So I thought that was quite strange, but maybe it's different in the US. But that was the totality of her video. Again, it was a little bit all over the place. You're gonna have to watch it for yourself to see what I mean. But I feel like it's one of those hindsight videos. When you go back and piece everything she's saying, it seems as though, and I think, you know, she said as much, that Farrah is now campaigning against birth control for teenagers because she feels as though they're not effective. They lower your libido and they make it hard for you to have intercourse. So it seems as though she wants for teenagers to instead be able to, women, girls, tie their tubes, and boys have vasectomies. Yes. That is the latest on the Farrah platform. I'm surprised she hasn't tried running for, like, you know, something to do in politics because she's got so many misguided opinions on it. And I don't know, it seems like she's switching gears to go that way. So I think it'll just be a matter of time before she goes full force with her own platform and everything. And I will be there to document it every step of the way when it happens, of course. Guys, how do you feel about Farrah seemingly campaigning for teenagers to get their tubes tied or to get vasectomies? And how do you feel about the fact that she's been trying to get her own tubes tied, but the doctors just won't let her? Justice for Farrah, y'all. I really do believe that she should be granted the tubal litigation that she has been fighting for. Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.